was such a great introduction. Hi, I'm Lana, for an easier way to address me. So yeah, I indeed come from Ukraine. I am co-founder, brand manager, and art director of the VP Production Audio Agency, which is like an independent audio agency that we run together with my partner. And yes, we create sonic identities for games, brands, and apps. And I am the one in charge of surveying our creative process and making sure that our clients' products become a meaningful part of their audience's lives. And this is precisely what we're going to talk about today with this fancy title. We're going to basically talk about the potential of branded game audio. But before we dive deep into this thing, let's talk about like basic marketing 101. When a human need meets like a business offer, it creates transaction. And when transaction has some emotions and personality to it, it creates brand. And which is like, this is what we're gonna like base everything on today. Because like transaction doesn't actually mean that this relationship between product and a human will last. Because when you have like some basic need as, I don't know, to buy a coffee, and you really crave coffee in the morning and you're in a rush, you're probably gonna buy it like just next to your house. But if you have a brand that exists like for the long time, like maybe Starbucks being the easiest one, and you have all those memory about Starbucks being nice to you and writing your name correctly on the cup, you will most probably spend additional 5 minutes and will go to Starbucks shop because it's like it brings some emotions and personality to the transaction, and this basically creates brand. And the brand is an image in the mind and most importantly in the heart of the audience. This is something that we remember instantly, recall instantly when a brand is mentioned. And this is where like this is valid for products, companies, apps, but also for games. It's because all those feelings associated with the product that are evoked when you just hear about it, or spoiler alert, hear the music from this product. This is what the branding is basically all about. It like brand brings recognition, it brings credibility, it brings loyalty, financial performance as a result of all those three things, and the financial performance basically reinforce your partnerships. And this means all kinds of partnerships you can ever imagine. Like, I mean, if we're talking about games, this is publishers, investors, also your audience, markets, like bloggers, anything like that comes as a partnership. Brand can help you reinforce it. And branding is actually a process of shaping this product perception, but in a conscious and active way. Because the thing is that brands are shaping themselves. You cannot actually make people feel certain way about your product. You can try and you can put your heart and soul in it, and this is what's called branding, but you are never 100% sure that people will perceive you as you want them to perceive you. But if you like really try to stay consistent and you are really true to what you're trying to convey to the audience, with the time, people will grow to perceive your product in a way is more beneficial for you. But again, even if you don't do this actively and consciously, it will shape it like by itself. And this brings you many risks and potential like scandals and canceling. But yeah, we're not going to talk about that today. And yeah, again, as I already spoiled for you, game audio can be a branding tool, among others, as visual branding, as like obviously texts and stuff. Audio can be one of the most powerful tools of branding, and specifically branding for games. And I guess you know this one. So why did I choose specifically this example is not because I admire how Ubisoft can capitalize on things. This is like the first reason, yes, of course. But this is a perfect example of how they followed this, unconscious branding they did, but how they grew to make it intentional. Because if you noticed, in the latest part, in Valhalla part, this Ezio's Auditore theme is so emphasized because they basically tried to say hey, this is the same game, this is the same franchise, please buy it because all those emotions, all those associations, this theme, it's the same game. It's not the same game, let's be honest. It's still a good game, but it's not the original Assassin's Creed. It's really far from the original concept. But through this music, and I personally know people that saw the trailer, that those people heard this theme and they were like, okay, I'm buying it. I have all those nostalgia feelings and stuff. So yeah, it's not just a tune, it's a bond between audience and the game. It's an emotion behind the game. This is something that brings people together, united by this emotion. And also, this is the brand essence. And this is what audio branding is all about, conveying and embodying the brand essence, in this case, game's essence, in a form of music, so people can instantly understand what this game is all about, what feelings it can provide, or what feelings it provided in the past. And it's actually valid also for sounds. So I saw that it really evoked some emotions in you. And what's even better, this sound from Metal Gear Solid is so iconic and so easy to remember and easy to recall, and it actually grabs attention that much. So when it just recently it started trending on TikTok, a new generation of gamers were like, oh, what's that sound? I like it so much. What's the game? And they went into comment section and people shared that it's Metal Gear Solid. So it's basically a new generation of gamers coming to check out the iconic game because of its sound. And it's actually valid also for voices. And yeah, why it's not playing? No. This is but I bet you can hear it in your head. So yeah, it will be all right. Okay, it doesn't work. So, but you heard it in your head, so it's working. So it's all right. But yes, it turned to be even better example. So yeah, it's all about conveying emotions and associations through all audio means. And yeah, let's talk how to actually do it. And let's talk finally about branded game audio. And this is a slide, those type of slides you throw in the presentation for people to take photo and read it afterwards. So actually, first of all, branded game audio is a system of sounds. It's an audio system. It's not just a sum of different, music themes, sounds, voices. No, it's a holistic system that is designed to reinforce the overall game values and messaging, thus, this essence of a game. And it's not limited only to using and to be complementary to the gameplay. It creates a consistent, cohesive game-bred experience outside of the gameplay context, throughout all the touch points with the audience. It's basically a transmedia tool for communication with your audience. And it's something that will, with the time, create a stronger sense of loyalty among the target audience. And it's something that will bring more interest and engagement and hopefully sales to your project. So yeah, and this is why your game audio needs to have a relevant personality and not to wow, never happened before. It's something today, something went wrong, but yeah, we're gonna roll with it, So yeah, your personality has to be relevant not only to your game, but mostly to your audience needs. And this is what, again, marketing thing is in here. But also, you have to be, again, consistent in how you use your audio and repetitive in cross-communication. Because the thing with audio is that the more time we hear it, the more our brain likes something. So if you heard like this Ezio's Auditoria theme like for thousands of times, even if you're not a fan of Assassin's Creed, somehow your brain will be humming like softly this theme, even if you're not actually actively aware of this. So yeah, you have to be consistent and you have to be repetitive in order for people to form like those deeper bonds with your product. And yes, branded game audio is actually, yes, something in a gameplay, obviously, but also it's something in trailers. And it's not the same music, it's adapted to trailers. It's something adapted for social media content, but again, still within this holistic system, like audio system for your project. It's something you can use at the events, media, traditional media, streaming platforms, merch. And actually, it's not limited to the content of this slide. The use of branded audio within like your game project and for marketing your game project, it's not limited to anything. It's limited only by your imagination, because there are so many ways in our audio-enabled world you can communicate through audio with your audience. Like it's actually really potent stuff. You just need to start thinking outside of the box, how cheesy it may sound. And yes, again, this all serves to drive interest, engagement, and sales of your product. And now I'm going to talk about a project we actually did. Like, if you may just tap maybe the audio or not, I don't know. It just doesn't work with the clicker. So yeah, this is a Trash is Fun game, which is, okay, so something is wrong with accesses, I guess, to this presentation, but yeah, wow. That's a nice base, but if you can do it like a little bit, like 70%, like, yeah, less, even more. Perfect, thank you. Sorry about that. So yeah, this is a Ukrainian indie game. We worked before the invasion started, maybe even like less of volume, if we may. Thank you. So yeah, audio, you know, it's usually it takes some time to make it sound right. So yeah, this is a Ukrainian indie game created by a group of teenagers, actually, as a part of educational project. And we actually saw this game thanks to their crowdfunding campaign, where they were crowdfunding for creating a soundtrack for the game. And I saw it and I was like, wow, that's fresh for Ukrainian market. Let's get in touch with those guys and let's help them out so they can reinvest, you know, all of the funds they gathered for soundtracks, so they can reinvest them in a game. We're gonna do it for free, you know, we're gonna do it for a revenue share base. And so they did an amazing job. They created an amazing game. The only problem, a slight one, was the full-scale Russian invasion, because the guys were based in Sumy region, and Sumy region was heavily attacked and heavily affected in the first 3-4 weeks of the invasion. Basically, there was no regular army there, and those children's parents went to fight for the city, and other parents of those children went as technical medical staff to help people who were fighting for their city. And the 3D modeler actually from the team, a 14-year-old guy, was modeling a penguin when his windows, because of the explosions, his windows shattered and he got wounded. And then he returned it to a group chat 15 minutes later. It was like, yeah, I'm fine. I just brought my computer to a next room and I'm gonna finish modeling the penguin. Those were the most scary 15 minutes of my life, but I'm glad he was all right. But the thing is, they were finishing the last levels during the invasion, and basically their whole premise of releasing the game was to release the game and not to die in the process, which I can highly relate to. So when they released the game, it was a really unfavorable media landscape. it was really hard for them mentally and energetically to promote the game, to really put some efforts into marketing. Some people from the team fled the country, obviously, because they're children, they are allowed to. And so it was so hurtful for us to see that the project they put their heart and soul into will not receive, enough attention to. We just stepped in with music marketing, and we managed, through the release of the soundtrack, we managed to cover different areas of promotion. We did some social media posts. We contacted most of the biggest Ukrainian game dev medias, got featured there. We got featured on several podcasts. We got featured in several YouTube videos of the major Ukrainian bloggers. We did a guest stream talking about the soundtrack. We were talking about the soundtrack at the events. So everything was, centered around the soundtrack of this game. And it actually led this game to finish last year at the 17th place out of 25 highest grossing Ukrainian games on Steam, which is remarkable thing with zero budget for marketing, And this is something that shows that this approach to creating branded audio and really using it in your marketing activities can be accessible to indie teams. It's not reserved, for big companies like Ubisoft, for example. It's not reserved to them. It's not reserved for people that have, all those budgets and really creative, and scaled marketing campaigns. No, you can do this on your own. You can do this with basically zero budget. Everything you need to have is a good content and a little bit of imagination, So yeah. But now it's about it's about time to talk about how you can create that audio account, how you can actually actively use it to shape your game brand perception. So everything starts with at the beginning with technical task and creative direction. And if technical task is something that answers the question what we have to create, creative direction answers the question why we should create that. And I bet you all know about technical task, but just a refresher, it's a document with a list of audio assets and technical requirements for them. So some specifications, how everything should sound in the end, what assets and in which way technically you have to produce for your game so everything works seamlessly with audio or with other game assets. I mean, in animations, cutscenes, stuff like this, locations. And technical task is not something we're going to talk about really in depth today because it's rather a usual thing. Here, however, you can have a template that we use in our agency a lot. It has several pages, technical task template for music, for sound effects, and for voice overs. So if you want, you can take a picture. I will wait for a second, and then we will continue. Cool. Great. So I'm continuing. And the thing I want to talk, however, more today is creative direction because it's something that came from more from the advertisement world. But sometimes I see our clients have they have something like this document, but usually it's not the case or it's not complete document. So creative direction is a document, obviously, that typically includes information about the major things about the projects, its brand identity, I mean tones, visual style, messaging, target audience, the overall the narrative part, everything actually that conveys the meaning of the game in our case. And this document is actually something that serves as a roadmap for the whole creative team, not just for audio people like me, but it's something that will ensure that entire creative process is like everyone involved is aligned in this project, and everyone knows and understands the objectives and creative decisions that have to be made in order to achieve like the highest goal of the project. And it consists of several things, obviously vision and objectives being the first one. Like everyone needs to understand clearly the overall concept of a game. I mean, like genre, setting, storyline, but also like a product promise, why you are creating this game, what you want to bring to people's life, like what do you promise them in terms of experience, emotional experience and gaming experience, etc. Then you have to include information on your target audience in this document, and I mean not just demographics like women 35 plus, which is usually the case when creating mobile games, for example, but you have to like include into this description of your target audience mainly like their preferences and needs. I mean, what they want to do with your game. Do they want to relax after the long day at work, or they want to get really like adrenaline rushed and stuff like this? So it depends. Marketing and promotion, this is something that you have to think about like as soon as you get your idea about your project. You have to understand from the very beginning how you're gonna promote your game, how you're gonna create those relationships with your audience. You have to gather at least some info on your direct and indirect competitors in order to understand how to differentiate for them. You have also include, of course, concept art and mood boards. You have to include information on gameplay mechanics. You have to think about user interface design, which is, for example, if it's not included in creative direction, this is the common thing. User interface sound design is usually overlooked in projects. I mean, in the at least at the not the earliest stages, even at the early access stage and stuff like this, because I spend quite some time every year judging various indie contests, and this is what usually projects lack of, user interface sound design, because people they just forget about it, and it ruins the experience from the beginning when you're in the menu and the buttons just don't sound, which is a bit of a problem. And yeah, of course, technical requirements, because those specifications like platform, game engine, software tools will help everyone, but also even audio specialists to understand how to develop audio in the right way, because audio is developed differently for example, for mobile games and for PC games and for console games, because it really affects how technically you perform on this project. And yeah, again, it's all about emotions and associations. So if you have a shitty creative direction document, at least think about emotions and associations you want to evoke in your audience's heads. This will be already a great start, especially for creating game audio. And this is when we start thinking about audio concept, which answers the big question: how we gonna make our game sound based on what we have to do, why we have to do this, and now we're at the how stage. So audio concept is actually also a document which should be a part of your game design document. I will probably do another speech on this for the next year because I was so sure people have this part in their game design documents, but turned out they do not have that. So yeah, this is something to talk about. So audio concept is actually a document answering the question how the game should sound based on the information you have on the technical requirements, of course, but also your project goals and needs, on your audience needs, and also marketing research. I mean, how your competitors sound and what are niche cliches. Everything to answer those questions, like how you're gonna convey associations. I mean, if you have like this association of a comfort, will you go for the extreme comfort, meaning like the sound of, you know, vinyl texture and some jazzy music, or you want to have it comfort more in a like eerie way, like with the you know, high pitched violins and stuff like this, because both of that can be a feeling of comfort. So what, based on your project's goals and needs, how you're going to convey this specific association and emotion, how you will meet the audience's needs, because if they want to get, you know, relaxed, again, it can be a really sleepy, relaxing way of making them feel this way, or it will be more upbeat, but still, you know, chilled, like a lo-fi stuff. And how you're gonna fit the game, but also gameplay, because gameplay introduces other goals, like, I mean, giving feedback for audience and stuff like this. How you gonna make this work, being, again, for example, comfortable and relaxing, but also providing a feedback on like fast actions and stuff like this. How you will fit or not fit the niche of your game, because yes, you still have to play and follow the, like, you still have to follow the rules of your niche in order for people to understand better your project, but also how you're gonna break those rules to stand out of the crowd. How you will differentiate yourself from your closest competitors, but also how like this all results in a general audio idea, an audio idea being like your audio vocabulary. I mean, like instruments, textures, rhythmic patterns, pace, and stuff like this, whether you use voice or not. So this document like gathers all of this information. And then I missed the button. And then when your audio professional, based on the concept, creates some assets, you have to listen carefully to them. And I really put an emphasis on the word carefully, because in our age of multitasking, some people are not listening carefully when when they have audio assets sent their way. But this is something you have to put everything aside and really sit down and listen, because we perceive audio in a different way that we perceive visuals and text. We perceive it like on a subconscious level. So you need to really clear your head in order to better understand how you feel about the audio. And when listening, you actually have to ask yourself some questions. Just a second, we're going to get to them. When listening, it's better to have something by your hands, like just to provide a context for yourself. I know you know your game the best of all the people, but you still have to have at least, like, if you don't have a build, you can at least have like art from your game, for example, locations, if we're talking about the theme of a specific location, or at least text description, because this, like, audio works in the context. So you need to provide yourself a context when you're giving feedback. And then ask yourself like this 4 easy questions, like, does an audio fit in the context? Does it succeed in conveying the intended meaning and emotion that you were set for this audio, like, to do? Does it to do so in a way that feels appropriate for a game? Again, back to the comfort example. Is it comforting in a way your game wants to be comfortable, like comforting for players? And does it perform the task it was set for? Because the thing is, again, audio is doing much more than providing, you know, an ambience or an atmosphere. Especially for sound design. Is it providing feedback? Is it providing some reward for players? Because, you know, some sounds are rewarding, like, for example, level up and stuff like this. So, yeah, and then you have to test everything. When you have your ready audio assets and you implemented them in your build, you have to test right away, because playtests can spotlight some problems you may not even heard. For example, we had this thing, there was a sound of frying meat in a game, and it was just a normal sound. I mean, it's just nothing, it's nothing, you know, it's not rocket science. It was a sound of like frying meat. But when we, like, our client did run a play test, several players were like, why the sound of frying meat kind of sounds like a sound of flushing toilets? And we were like, well, yeah, now we hear that. And the client's team was like, wow, we never noticed that either. And we just changed the sound. It was all right. So because sometimes you get so used to some sounds, you start like hearing how they like may have other connotations to them. So yeah, testing is crucial at this point. And then, yeah, again, consistency and repetition across all points of communication with your audience. And again, it's like not just gameplay, it's trailers, events, traditional media, social media, merch. I mean, you can release your soundtrack as a pieces of merch, for example, vinyl or even cassettes and stuff like this. This is something that will create even more of this bond between audience and your game. Yes, it's pricey, but also it's forever, and it's like a collectible stuff. And my favorite example, actually, in music marketing for games, it's an example of Death Stranding game. Even before the first announcement trailer, when nobody had no idea what this project gonna be like, they released a first piece of merch, and it was a vinyl with 2 tracks by Low Roar. By the way, like, so sorry for the death of Ryan, last year. It's truly sad. It was such a big part of Death Stranding game atmosphere. So yeah, it's just a sad moment to include. But yes, this was great because people, yes, they didn't know what the game is about, but they could already feel it and experience it through its music. So merch can be a really potent, way in communicating with your audience. So yeah, and streaming platforms, of course, for people to listen to game music after they finish the game, to extend this relationship even through years. Sometimes I had this conversation with my friends. Sometimes you want to play a game, like an old one, but you simply don't have time to do this, so you just plays its soundtrack and you have the same emotional impact. So it's something you should consider every time when releasing a game. Release its soundtrack everywhere so people can listen to it afterwards. And yes, and this is something, again, that I want to talk about. It's another project of ours. It's a game named Foxtail. And it's like one of my favorite games out there, not only because we worked on it. I genuinely feel it's a really great game product. And we did like everything for this game, and we will continue to do so because the latest chapters will be released, I hope, anytime soon, because the thing is, the development team was also heavily affected by the Russian invasion because they were living near the city of Izium. And if you ever heard about city of Izium, if not, Google it. It's something the world needs to know about. So yeah, they escaped occupation just hours before their hometown was occupied, and they actually were living by one road, and Russians were coming by the next road. So they were just kilometers away from them. So yeah, so that's why the game is a bit postponed in release, but they're still working on it. I mean, they are the most badass team I know. And the thing is, we released the soundtrack for the first 3 chapters, and we got an incredible feedback from the audience. Comments this is soundtrack to my life now. I do my everyday stuff listening to this soundtrack, and other many great reviews. And actually, that's my partner Vlad. He's a lead composer on this project, and this is also Vlad, a character in a game who plays music instruments. So yeah, we and this is a great part of fan service because audience is super well aware of who is who's creating music for this project. And so when they introduced this character in the third chapter, people were like, wow, that's so cool. Like you have this real life, like interactions and stuff like this. And so, yeah, we released the soundtrack everywhere. It got some attention. We got some coverage on it. And then this is the most recent thing we did for Ukrainian Games Steam Festival, an event that was featured on the main page of Steam for 3 days and got more than 1.3 million of views in those 3 days. And this is the video we did for this festival. And it was featured on the main page of festival, thus on the main page of Steam. And we were talking, like my partner Vlad, he was talking about how he created this soundtrack. What's behind it? What stories are behind this soundtrack? Why it sounds like it sounds? What are the audience's favorite soundtrack parts and stuff like this? And because of this video, we saw a spike in sales of this game. Even though it's not releasing right now, it was released like a few years ago. But still, people were like, oh, I watched this video, I want to play this game, I bought it. So this is how music marketing works, because if you have those emotions and associations and story behind your audio, and you have this consistency, which is basically, we are talking about audio brand, if you have this, it's easier to make people interested in your music and thus in your game. So yeah, this is basically about it. To sum up, again, branded audio is a system. It's not just a sum of different elements. It's a system that is designed in a way to reinforce your overall game brand values and messaging. And it creates a consistent, cohesive experience for your audience across all the different touch points in attempt to create a stronger sense of loyalty in them. And again, audio-enabled touch points are like trailers, social media, traditional media, like merch, events, and it's not limited to that. It's limited only by your imagination. And to create this kind of audio, you need obviously a technical task, but also a creative direction, and also an audio concept, which is highly important, and usually it is done by the audio team, but in collaboration with developers. So this is something, if you're working with somebody, please make sure they do this document, and it is based on your project needs, but also your audience needs, and also an overall market research data as if for how you can differentiate from your competitors and stand out from your niche. So that's about it. Yeah, thank you for being here. And there is a music there. Yeah, it worked.
Thank you a lot, Lana. That was really, really nice. I hope you all enjoyed the music and stuff. I'm sure you have questions, or at least if you do, we'll pass a microphone along. I already have a couple for you. You mentioned a lot about how it's important to have a cohesive brand and to try and spread it as much as possible on different platforms. And many a times I've seen developers releasing their soundtrack, but only on Steam. And I do know the answer, but can you tell us how is it possible to actually cover way more ground and use all of the music platforms and all of the possible other places where the game can have visibility, even if you're just a game developer?
That's a great question. Thank you. Yes, usually you can start with the easiest things, which are, again, like Steam, but also YouTube. This is not that hard, to do. And it's also the great advantage of YouTube is that it's free for your players to listen. But then you have all sorts of DIY distribution platforms, to name a few, like DistroKid, sound baby, I guess. And why it's all about kids and babies, never thought about it before. But yeah, like the one that our team uses is symphonic distribution. So all those distributing platforms work kind of by the same principle. It's like you have your account there, you put your music in there, you fill out all the data needed for the platforms, and the distribution platform takes care of everything, like contacting different music platforms and stuff. And then they take either a percentage or like a monthly subscription or yearly subscription fee, to cover their work. And like once you do this, like you're pretty much set for all the next releases. You have your account and you can add everything, like anything you want in the future. So it's rather like easy, but yes, you have to spend some time in the beginning. And yeah, it's about that.
Cool. Thanks. Hopefully we'll see more soundtracks coming all over the place.
Hopefully.
Really. And yeah, the other question I had is like, okay, it's so cool. I have this prototype and I want to have a strong audio brand. And I saw your conference and I'm like, oh yeah, Lana really knows her stuff. What should I prepare to get to contact you and be like, hey, can you help me out with this audio branding? At what stage do I need a build? Do I need a prototype? Do I need to already have written all of this down, or tell us?
Again, great questions. You came in prepared. I mean, yes. So the thing is, as I mentioned, like audio concept should be a part of game design documents. So you want to start quite early working on your like branded game audio, but not too early. You still have to have a finished concept for your game, the one that won't move that much, still there is always like a place and space for changes and stuff, but you have to have like finalized-ish concept. You have to have like at least general art style that you locked in. If it's a narrative-driven game, you have to have at least the overall, story frame and stuff like this. And obviously pitch deck. I mean, it's like the base of everything. You need to, to have a creative direction. So all those points that I mentioned, you have to already be prepared to have those. If not, at least some of them, and then we can start from there, like discussing what is lacking. But yeah, you have to understand your goals as a project. You need to understand, at least on the surface level, you need to understand your audience and why they should play your game. And you need to understand how you will provide those experiences to your audience, and then like an audio team can start from there, like discussing stuff, researching market and things like that. Yeah, I hope it answers your question.
It does. Is there any questions in the audience? Yes, there's one just there, and then here after that.
My questions, you said that you need to be consistent about the music, repetitive, you play it everywhere where you can, but won't people grow tired of it? Like when you hear something way too much, you have a negative feeling about it, and so, yeah, isn't it negative?
The great question, thank you. And this is a blank space I not maybe intentionally left in my speech, but it's a great thing you asked because we can specify on it. When I say you have to use it consistently and repetitively, I don't actually mean using the same theme over and over again. I talk more about adaptations of the, let's say, audio DNA of your project, which can be your main theme, for example, or gameplay theme based on a project's, specific stuff. But for each touch point, you have to create an adaptation of it regarding, the requirements of this touch point. For example, for shorter forms of content, you can come up with either the two ways of going. You can either amplify this theme to the max to be really impactful and stuff, or in to a completely different way. You can make it more like easier and chilled, you know, not to go that hard if you know that it will be repetitive like a lot. And then like for events you can go for again with an adapted thing, and for traditional media you want to put it like in the best way possible because it will be embedded, for example, in an article. So the thing is, as it's a system, you need to understand the goals and the specific requirements of all touch points and basically create different adaptations of main theme or other things of this like system to be repetitive, but not, you know, creating this negative emotion. Oh, I heard this so many times before, like I'm so tired. So yeah, you still have to be kind of, you know, interesting to your audience again and again. Yeah, providing something fresh for them.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for the question.
There was another one there in front, just here. Thank you.
Hey, thank you for the talk. It's not really a question, but it was very interesting when you said you mentioned Death Stranding, right? How it started communicating emotions about the game before actually communicating gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
I found that super interesting, actually. And it makes me think that in general, when you think about the marketing strategy of a game, usually there's an announcement saying, whoa, this is an action game, this is a racing game, this is and actually, it's the first time hearing you talk about it. It's the first time that I think, like, wow, actually, you can do that in the other way around and saying, okay, this game will make you feel like happy, sad, angry, whatever. That was actually super interesting, and I'm wondering if you guys have your say in how the marketing plays out, right? If you work on a project, do you actually participate in saying like, okay, we think that this project, instead of showing the gameplay first, we could show first, something about the emotions. I don't know if that happens to you sometimes.
It's thank you again for the question, and thank you for mentioning this the insight you had, because like this is something again that I think about quite often, and I know like I get why games are communicated this way. You know, it's an action game because it's easier for people to understand right away if it's their cup of tea. But again, why Death Stranding did not do that? Because people were like still people are arguing which type of the game it is, and people are like, is it something that I like or not? Mostly people don't like the gameplay, for example, like I mean mechanically, like mechanics wise, but so the idea was like, okay, this is gonna be this emotional experience, and it was genius. But the thing is, in our projects we try to do this. We slowly make our way into saying our clients how to do, like, marketing decisions. Like for example, for Foxtail project, it's a great project for us to experimenting with many things, because we have such a great relationship with the developer. So we have our ways of saying things. For example, for the fourth chapter that it's about to be released sometime soon, I hope, we released a soundtrack, one of the soundtracks for this chapter for Patreons, as a kind of reward, for people supporting the game, with the location, and it's just a small animation. So the location doesn't tell you anything about the plot, developments, but it provides you this emotional idea how things will go, how the journey of the main character continues and stuff like this. So you see this beautiful, beautiful location, but also with the soundtrack you get more information, about how things will go from now on. So this is the thing we did. And also, like, for the release of the next chapters, we agreed with the team that we will participate in marketing activities a lot, involving music in it and communicating stuff through it as well. So yeah, hopefully on our next projects we can do this from the get-go, So, but thank you for the great question.
I have another one.
Please do go.
Make it quick.
Okay, so let's say that the idea of branded audio, I guess, is that if you do some audio that becomes like iconic, right, then it's used in other media as well, right? For example, like Space Odyssey, like dun, 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 And then, is there something like in video games right now that if your sound gets used, like the Metal Gear sound, that you actually get rights?
I mean, you have to do all those legal stuff, like if you're monetizing on it. I mean, if it's used in TikTok, I mean, usually nobody gets paid by that, only if, like, and it was like another TikTok trend a few years back, the OG NPC trend, not the one we got recently, that one that is messed up. The OG NPC trend, when people were like acting as an NPC in the game, and the music used for this trend was mainly music from a Life is Strange game. And if it was put on TikTok via distribution platforms and it was used as a sound in TikTok, the team or like rights owner, like I think they got paid of the usage of this if it's done like, you know, in the right way, and the royalties are collectible and they are collected. People like the right owners can actually get like an additional revenue through this. So this is a great thing. If you go viral, I mean, it's a great additional monetizing source. But you have to do it right. Technically and rights-wise and stuff like this. But if it's used in another media, like YouTube and Twitch, for example, and if you put your music, and this is important again, if you put your music through distribution platforms and somebody uses it during like a YouTube video or Twitch translation, it can be flagged. And the thing is, you have to communicate this with your audience. Like, guys, we have our music out there. You may be flagged. Please contact us so we can whitelist you. So the people, if you want to whitelist them, if you don't want to whitelist them and keep monetization to yourself, that's perfectly fine as well. For example, in our case, all the additional profits we make through Foxtail soundtrack actually go to Ukrainian charity funds. So this is communicated with the audience as well. Like, guys, you can lose your monetization if you include this music in your content, but those money will go to charity, and usually people are okay with this. So it's all about communication. You know, you can get additional monetization, but just, you know, communicate this with your audience and justify it. So yeah. Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lana. Thank you, everyone. We're gonna wrap this up. It was really, really great having you.
Thank you. Likewise, thank you for having me. And here's a round of applause for you guys. So yeah. Have a great one, and if you have any more questions, just catch me out there.